Hello, first tonight, payback time for criminals who've stolen millions from taxpayers.
Today in Luton, 3 men were given 6 months to hand over £1.5 million or spend an extra 3 years behind bars. But that's just a fraction of the money they made from crime, a figure put at more than £8 million. Today, the Justice Secretary, Jack Straw, was in Northampton, where thousands of pounds recovered from other convicted criminals is being ploughed back into the community. We'll hear from him in a moment. But first, this from Nikki Jenkins.
It was a family business, brothers Karmjit and Tejpal and their cousin Harnek. Its corrupt roots here in Luton, it blossomed abroad. This is the Galaxy Designer Wedding Resort in Phagwara in the Punjab. It boasts of its pillarless hall spread out over 16,000 square feet. Marriages are made in heaven, the website says. Welcome to heaven on earth. But this and the profits were all made possible because of the money they'd made dishonestly over here.
From a couple of addresses in this unassuming Luton street, they ran a succession of businesses supplying labour to the building trade. They undercut the competition by using illegal workers from India and paying them below minimum wage. It soon netted them an affluent lifestyle.
New £500,000 homes, new cars and big payouts. Now it's their turn to pay back. In court today, the families who will have to help them. The men already serving sentences have 6 months to pay up or face further terms of 3 years and 9 months. It's estimated they made more than £8 million in total, but their seizable assets are just a fraction of that. Together, they'll repay just over £1.5 million. Nikki Jenkins, BBC Look East in Luton.
Another part of our region is also seeing the benefits of criminals' money. Thousands of pounds have been spent on a community in Northampton. It's a scheme which could be rolled out across the country.
The residents here in Lumber Tubs in Northampton are looking for areas that might need improving. There's more than £27,000 of criminals' money being spent on the area. Once associated with antisocial behaviour and crime, it's getting a facelift. And it's the people who live here who are getting to choose what's needed.
We walk these streets every day. We live here. We want the place to look nicer for everybody, and we know where the problem areas are.
If we could just take it down.
We decided that things like pavements needed redoing because a lot of them are broken. Hedges needed cutting back.
Once decided, the improvements are made in several ways. These bushes are being cut back by criminals doing community service, so the labour is free. But the tools are bought with the funds. Just round the corner, a more major repair, and this time council workers are brought in using the money.
Massive improvement to what it was before. You just wouldn't recognise some of these back alleys if you actually came 6 months ago.
We're trying to put pride back into here and make people take pride themselves.
It went downhill for a while, but now it's got a chance to go up.
A total of £110,000 has been spent in 6 communities in Northamptonshire this year. Next year, the government will extend the scheme so that other communities can benefit like this one. Anita Randharry, BBC Look East, Northampton.
Well, the Justice Secretary, Jack Straw, has been visiting that scheme in Northampton. I spoke to him earlier and I asked him why it's important to get money back from the criminals.
Oh, to make it very clear to these particularly high-end criminals that crime is not going to pay and the community is going to get back their ill-gotten gains. And there's a direct link between the £1.5 million which has been ordered to be repaid against these 3 criminals at Luton Crown Court today and what's happening here on the ground, because £27,000 of that kind of money has come to this area of Northampton to be used to clean up the area and to make it more likely that there is less crime than would otherwise be the case. So it's a really important connection.
By the very nature of what they do, though, criminals are not going to be deterred by the fact they're going to lose their money because they don't think they're going to get caught, do they?
I've seen some of these people, these criminals and their partners, complaining like Billy-O about the fact that, quotes, it's not fair, that they've now been ordered to sell their houses, to have their cars taken off them, their bank accounts are being traced. This is raising the stakes against the criminals, and it is working. And of course we've got to go further. But from a standing start a few years ago, we're now getting in £250 million a year in criminal assets. That's making a big difference. It means we can better finance policing and the rest of the criminal justice system, and above all, help areas like this, because it's in areas of, if you like, with local crime that people may get into the criminal habit, and the more we can nip criminality in the bud, the fewer people end up as these so-called Mr. Bigs doing these terrible things.
Does it bother you that the criminality in this case in Luton was a total of £8 million, and yet we're getting back 1.5 million? There's a big difference.
There is a difference. I can't obviously explain the difference. That would have been a matter before the court. But the courts are becoming much more experienced in operating the Proceeds of Crime Act, and are tougher too. And of course, these people are high-end criminals. They've usually managed to salt away quite a lot of money, so they often pay the best lawyers and try to disrupt the system. But in turn, the Serious and Organised Crime Agency and the Crown Prosecution Service, who've got the principal responsibility for getting this money back, are themselves becoming much more experienced and much tougher. But the truth is, there's a reason why, for example, we've got 27,000 more people locked up in prison now than we did 12 years ago, and that's because the courts are sending more serious prisoners to jail, and for very much longer.
Mr. Straw, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
The university accused of trying to cover up information about climate change has been cleared of any wrongdoing by a group of all-party MPs. It says Professor Phil Jones and the Climatic Research Unit in Norwich were not trying to mislead people by refusing to publish research into global warming.
This was a scandal that rocked the world of science and nearly derailed the Copenhagen Climate Change Summit. Leaked emails from the University of East Anglia's Climatic Research Unit revealed a reluctance by staff to make their research public. Critics claimed there was a cover-up going on.
I've obviously written some very awful emails tonight.
At the centre of the storm, the head of the unit, Professor Phil Jones, who gave evidence before MPs earlier this month. Today, those MPs conclude that there was no attempt to deliberately mislead.
I'm sure he regrets some of the emails he made, but which of us do not regret some of the emails that we send to people that we feel are trying to undermine everything we're doing?
The scientific reputation of Professor Jones and the Climate Research Unit remains intact. That means that we have not held up any of the allegations that the emails undermine the scientific integrity of the CRU.
But the university is criticised for its reluctance to respond to freedom of information requests. If it had been more open, the MPs conclude, there would never have been such an outcry in the first place.
I wish we had been much more forthcoming. I think we must learn that lesson to the full. And create a culture where UEA becomes rather well known for being right at the forefront of releasing what can be released.
So the university is promising to be more open in the future, even though it'll mean extra pressure on its staff. This inquiry was principally about whether there was a cover-up here, and it concludes there wasn't. The actual science of global warming is being examined by two other inquiries due to report in the next couple of months. And the university is confident that those inquiries will also give us a clean bill of health. Andrew Sinclair, BBC Look East at the University of East Anglia.
Well, still to come in Look East, the terrible impact on a family of the soon-to-be banned drug methadone.
And an appointment with the doctor. We meet the man of the moment, Matt Smith, as he goes back to his hometown of Northampton for a special screening